Okay, so hello and welcome everyone. I'm Julieanne with the Stargate Experience here with Michele Castro, my dear friend, who
Hi.
is who's a
Mhm.
mental health specialist, and she's a Stargater since before I was.
Mhm.
And she's here today to share with us a very potent lesson.
Mhm.
And this is all about igniting our universal fire. We're going to talk about this concept. Then we're going to be doing, Michele will be channeling Isis, guiding us through an energy experience. I'm hearing the word initiation.
Mhm.
And we are just going to roll right in with this question. So, Michele, your offering is igniting your universal fire, but you're also calling it sacred rage. So, can you tell us why sacred rage and why now?
Okay. So, sacred rage. I'm going to try to keep this brief because I have a lot to say about it. One of the things that we are hoping to unpack together at some point is looking at some of the creation myths that go back to the ancient times, and these templates. If we look at mythology as part of our collective unconscious, which is this um, part of the quantum field that all human beings have access to and kind of bubbles beneath the surface. Um, there's templates that have been running that are completely exhausted. They're completely overworn. And one of those stories is the story of slaying the dragon. And Tiamat is the dragon mother. The dragon is it's the most ancient creature of all creation. It's the most ancient creature that exists, and so we have to go back to that moment of creation and see her as the mother. And why rage is because the story of Tiamat, I mean, this is that she becomes this raging, fiery, out of control, chaotic force. So we have this underlying capacity of we have to control chaos. We have to control the out of balance. We have to bring it to order. And so why I call it rage is because there's a few reasons. One is that we're kind of rescuing and realizing that our powers to create are actually tied into our capacity to mobilize, our capacity to just kind of go in there and create chaos. And then out of that storm that can really come our capacity to create. So quite literally, there's this connection between our power to create and chaos and rage that are all interrelated within the myths. And then I hate this word on some levels, and then I love this word. We're coming out of a time of patriarchy, a time where there's imprint after imprint after imprint of the oppression, of injustice, of this imbalance, of this patriarchal, this power over structure that not one of us has been able to escape, whether it was the power over from our parents or from institutions or just the images and stories, the little myths and cartoons we watched as children. This structure it's unconscious in us. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So when we look at these myths and we look at the stories, and then we look at how we were raised to be, um, not any most of us were not allowed to truly express the full potential of our fire as children. And from my psychology background, I actually have like a great quote in one of my notebooks is sitting right here. And Judith Blackstone is one of my embodiment teachers. And a quote that I have written down from her is that patterns of restriction and belief, they form in our childhood in relation to our immediate family, to our peers at school, to our institutions. And we constrict to any experience that is considered like an abrasive sensory stimulus. So when we're looking at why sacred rage, why now, it's because that if we're going to evolve this myth, because this idea of slaying the dragon, it's over. We are no longer looking to slay the dragon. We're looking to find our sovereignty. We're looking to bring in her original blueprint, which is a sovereign being. And so if we're going to be sovereign beings, we have to be able to own our impulses and to reclaim them. And, something that she also said, Judith Blackstone, which is beautiful. So you can't cut yourself off from expressing anger except by closing of the throat, or from feeling the anger in parts of the body, such as the gut, which needs constriction, and any other part of the body that needs movement. And I, as a mother, am aware that all you have to do is take your child to the grocery store and say no to lollipops to see how society feels about our capacity to express anger. So, I can talk and talk and talk, so I'll stop at this moment.
I want to segue into something that you told me that it blew my mind, honestly, and it changed the way that I work with myself in my inner world, like instantly and forever. And that is, can you explain why it's necessary to pass through the fire of anger in order to create a balance from the places where we have been shut down?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk about the nervous system right now. I know it's not, angels and Pleiadians, but so our nervous system is, it's our first line. It's how we keep ourselves safe. It's how we orient ourselves in relation to danger. It's also the information superhighway in the body.
Yeah. And I just have to interject. Our nervous system is how we feel the angels and the Pleiadians.
Right on. Yes. So as you can see, this lights me up a lot. And Jules. So our nervous system, our first line of defense that we have is what's called our social engagement system. When our social engagement system is on, it means I can make eye contact. My voice is in like a flowing place. I feel open. I feel safe. I trust my environment. So we just had 2 weeks of no power, trees falling down, crazy, crazy storms. And I noticed that as soon as I felt it raining earlier, my body is like, oh my gosh, the power is going to go out. I'm not going to have internet. That's something that's my nervous system responding. So with that, and then I have that capacity to be like, okay, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. And I bring myself back down to calm. So when let's say that you're in a situation and I'm getting ready for this webinar and the power does go out, and I'll just be honest. And I'm like, gosh, darn it. Blah, 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 blah. It never goes my way. My system is now just switched into fight or flight. So that is our next line of defense. Our capacity to fight or our capacity to flee is our fight or flight system. let's say that I don't have, you know, there's another person here and I don't want to get angry in front of them. I don't want them to see, you know, I'm this like very spiritual person. And so I'm going to shove that anger down. I'm going to, you know, if fight or flight is a system that is meant to keep us in place, if it's not going to work, if like we can't escape danger because, you know, it's either too much or we're little and we're not allowed to leave, we have to just stay there, then a more ancient part of the nervous system will come on board. And that is, it's a freeze state. So it's like that high sympathetic charge, but this like, you know, kind of like shutting down that happens, and it puts our systems into collapse. Now we see this, any animal, or anytime you've seen like a cat with a mouse in its you know, holding in its mouth, that is the cat or the mouse in collapse. But animals don't have this higher cortex brain, so they can move out of that state of complete collapse and playing dead or freeze. And then the moment, let's say the cat gets like, I remember being like, naughty cat, don't touch that mouse, or let it go. And the cat will just get startled and let it go. And then the mouse will like go from like being dead to like pop up again and running around the house. So it's moving back into that mobilization. It's moving back into that fight or flight system. And then if it's lucky and it escapes the house, then it'll eventually go back to safety, and poof, nothing happened. The mouse went from social engagement. It's fine. It's foraging for food. There's a cat. I'm going to like run away from danger. But then it gets caught and it can't escape danger. So it plays dead. And then it goes from that collapse state back into that fight or flight state, back into social engagement. What I'm describing is that when you are, when we're healing from something, you have to, and it's been, you know, pressed down into our unconscious, these experiences from our childhood, from life. When they come up to be healed, it's very, very, very possible and likely that you're going to pass through that stage of anger before you get to that place of completely letting it go, or some kind of, and anger doesn't have to look like I'm going to go, you know, fight somebody and beat them up. It's finding that part that's like, oh, this is my no, or just like there's a physicality to it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so brilliant because it's something that I never had heard before, is that like we actually have to pass through anger and mobilization and this like kind of like fight or flight energy in order to come back into full on social engagement. And I think it's brilliant to understand that that's actually the way it works. All the places inside of ourselves where we've felt helpless, for one reason or another, where like these impacts like really went deep. And it makes so much sense because it's what you're saying. It's not necessarily that even you're going to express that anger outwardly. It's sort of like you suddenly realize the full impact that situation had on you. And you suddenly have access to the part of you that's like, no.
And I'm going to even elaborate on that deeper, because most of us have, and I'm going to say most of us because it's not everybody, but most of us have that capacity to feel the charge of anger. It's in us. In order to really let it go or move it through, we have to feel it's the discharge of the anger. It's the discharge. It's the like, it's not necessarily in the, it's in the, what it feels like after, to just like, oh, that felt so good. You know, like I can feel that like physical, you know, surge in my muscles. I can feel heat inside myself. I can feel what my you know, my gut wants to just like squeeze and then release. Like there's this actual discharge that happens. And you know, I have a 4-year-old Aries named Athena who is been teaching me about this more than anything. And what I notice, because I mean, we give her boundaries, but I let her have these like her temper tantrums. And it is so physical. Like I can see the muscles engaging in her. And I'm not suggesting we all have to have a workout, but I'm aware that like there's like, it made me realize like, wow, like I wasn't allowed to do that. So, you know, and it's not that the arms need to go crazy and we need to have these insane experiences, but we need to be able to bring that capacity to like allow that energy to flow through.
Yeah. And what I've been like pondering and percolating on this and contemplating it. And what I think is true, at least for me, is when I do hold my rage as sacred, as like a pathway in which my energy naturally flows, I gain access to a self-protection. And that's the dragon, right? Like the dragon has access to all this like embodied power and at the same time, a reverence for life. And therefore it becomes this like sacred protector of what is like.
Yes. It's one of her, and that's what I'm like, that's the power of myth, is because we get to realize that the dragon she's the guardian of life. She's the guardian of the earth. She's the she's the guardian. And you know, the reason that she, you know, goes into this state of complete chaotic rage, she becomes this raging beast, is because her husband was slain. It's her injustice. It's her sadness. It's her grief. It's her desire to make things right. It's that capacity to stand up for what we believe. And, you know, she's got that integrated masculine and feminine within her. And that's the template, you know, the modern Gnostic Carl Jung, who I'm like, oh my gosh, what he knew back then is so powerful. You know, he says like the pathway, like wholeness, you know, which is another word for what we're all looking to achieve, can only happen through an integrated masculine and feminine within us. And that and was one of the themes that also in the lineage of Jung, Marion Woodman, who is a Jungian analyst that lives in the 80s. And she talked a lot about, you know, moving out of the patriarchy. She says that we need to move from murder to sacrifice. And when I think of sacrifice, like, you know, and when I sit with this, and when I get these, you know, these voices and these impulse from the guides, from the goddesses, from Isis, it's like, that's what we need to do. We need to be able to stop feeling ashamed about our anger, stop feeling ashamed about our capacity to hold boundaries. And we just need to offer it up.
Yeah.
You know, and what this will do in the collective field is begin to completely change the way that human beings are going to relate to the world. Like little boys are no longer going to slay dragons. They're going to learn they're going to learn their assertive vitality, but they're going to like, in the end.
Saints were already kind of seeing this, like in terms of like the Game of Thrones vision of riding with the dragon, right?
Yes. Beautiful. I never saw that, but yes, like, so it's starting to come back online. It's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and someone is saying in the chat, I've ate, smoked ciggies, shopped, etc., to avoid anger for too many years. Love what Michele is expressing. So grateful.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yes, and it's really hard because here we are in this spiritual community, and we all feel love. We can sit in the fields, we can sit with Alcazar, and we can feel all of these things. But then when it comes into life, we have this like shutdown around these more harder emotions. And the reason that I actually started to think about putting this course together is I do a lot of one-on-one sessions with people from the Stargate, and I'm like, oh, okay, so like what came up? And it's like, well, I had a little anger at Alcazar, but and I'm like, oh no, that's good.
Yeah.
That's actually, you're getting upset with yourself because you're thinking, oh my God, I'm angry at Alcazar. Or you're getting kind of lost on, attached to whatever silly thing that you're projecting your anger into. But really, that's just your system starting to mobilize and come out, because that's how the limitations are going to release. And there's a capacity, I'm doing the quantum science for kids course with my older daughter, and they just did this lesson on like Newtonian and Einstein versus, so like the more like physical laws of mechanics, the laws of gravity, the physics that is within the quantum field, kind of maybe the old physics, and then there's the quantum physics. But what they're saying is like, you can't escape. There's certain laws of matter. There's certain laws in the physical world that just adhere to these things. If I take a ball and I drop it, it's gonna fall. I mean, maybe, all right, like maybe that I can do something with my mind sometime and do something, but without me doing something to change it, it will just do that. And so I believe that our physical body, it adheres to these laws of nature, to these laws of physics, that really we need to be able to learn how to work with our instincts. And quite essentially, the dragon is the field of the instincts, the dragon bloodlines, the dragon blood. The dragon lines are it's related to our primal beingness. And so in order to find our own sovereignty, to find our own freedom, we have to begin to learn how to capture our impulses or our instincts. We have to own our instincts, or they begin to own us. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It's what I feel from this is it's yet another way that's essential for us to embrace in order to come fully alive, because it is like this way that our nervous system naturally operates. And like within the context of that, like what we're calling sacred rage, if you take out any kind of storyline, it's like sometimes our nervous system just wants to like mobilize and go all out and have this like fire move through it.
Yes.
And all the time, and like we just aren't going to have access to the same amount of vitality. And within our intuition, what you're talking about, that instinctual field, is so important to acknowledge, because it's like if we're constantly shutting down one part of our faculties, we're blinding ourselves and blunting our senses and cutting ourselves off from what is actually an intuitive, expressive field.
Yes.
So,
and the more that we learn how to use these things, like I am not a master, I'll just tell you that, but I'm aware that I've really learned how to, you know, how to just like really, if I'm feeling that field of like anger, like if I feel that building, I'm kind of like, all right, what is this? I just need to kind of go with it. And whether it's, I had this issue with one of my kids' teachers, and I was like, I just kind of like went with it. And I wasn't mean to the teacher, but I allowed that anger to kind of push me forward and mobilize me, because fight or flight, anger, rage, it's mobilizing energy. It's how we mobilize. So, if we essentially, when we really get it, if we can really, really, really move our systems into these healthier places, then we're eventually going to get to the place where our social engagement system and our mobilization system get to come on board together. And and then that's playfulness, and we can learn how to, use it more eloquently.
I love it. Okay. So there is a question from Goldie, a good one. How do we tap into the anger we have suppressed? And I'm wondering if it might actually be a question for the goddess. I'm wondering if it's a good moment to segue.
Okay, I'll let her answer it. Okay. So am I going to move into a meditation right now, or am I just going to answer?
Let's make space for what wants to happen.
Okay. Dearest ones, it is I, Isis. And in the field with me is your goddess mother, Tiamat. In the field with me is your goddess, Morgana. In the field with me is the one known as Medusa. And it keeps going and going and going. And what this is significant for is for you to know that the support for you is here. The first thing that must occur within each and every one of you is that your connection to the mother is restored. The goddess is your divine mother that will come to you uniquely in the way that it needs to. Whether it is Mary Magdalene, whether it is Isis, whether it is Gaia, whether it is the Black Madonna, whether it is Kuan Yin, whether it is a being of your own unique template and design, the mother, your capacity to trust. That is what we are here to restore within you, within to the hearts of each and every individual. Because this love of the mother is plentiful for you. So when working with such emotion, it is first necessary for you to find that experience of trust, of safety, of connection, the safe place inside. And we are wishing to help you find that. Many of you have this already with this one Alcazar. And this one who we have guided over the years to understand this information has devoted herself, her studies, to understanding some of this work and has a capacity, amongst many others, to bring you techniques of learning to just begin to feel again what anger feels like inside. We suggest that you begin to practice with your voice. Practice allowing sound to come up. When you are in your public and you see a child that is angry or expressing what you would know as temper tantrums, notice what happens inside. Begin to notice these parts of yourself. And perhaps you do not need to rip others' heads off. But when you can learn to connect to a safe place inside the body and simultaneously begin to allow yourself to let go of some of these feelings, whether it is through movement and dance, whether it is through squeezing or shaking, there is a bodily activation that must occur. Dearest ones, when this experience of your Osiris was murdered, yes, in the story it is told that Isis did lament and spend time as the wailing, grieving bird. Yet she mobilizes. She goes and pushes through to find the justice. These are mechanisms inside of you that must be restored. Yet the cellular memory is that you should not go anywhere near these expressions, that it is not safe, that it is not good, that you are not worthy of feeling such spaces inside of you. Many of you, as children, had to shut down in order to survive. And so your entire organizing systems became that of what is called a people pleaser, or one that will just sacrifice themselves for the needs of others. All of this has to do with relationships to anger. There are many subtleties to this work. And I cannot promise any of you that tomorrow you will be rid of this. Yet, dearests, while many of us here are gathered, making these changes in the morphogenetic field of humanity, there are others that are trapped in these lower vibrations and frequencies. There is rage and violence and war and aggression everywhere. All of this comes from fear, from a sense of powerlessness. The most powerful way that we have to make the changes within the field, or for us to go digging deep inside and looking at our own shadow sides, looking at how we deal with such things. Because many of you beginning to own, beginning to learn to discharge and express is bringing about a neutralization in the field of the collective. It begins to set free humanity from this over-exhausted story, as we say. Many of you have blood coursing through your veins that is the blood of the dragon. I invite each and every one of you to just feel your body right now. Feel your legs, your arms. Feel your skin. Feel your muscles. And feel, dearests, your blood. Feel your blood. Dearest, we are ancestors. We are family. Feel your mother coursing through your veins as fire. Feel the limbs, feel the arms. Feel your legs. Feel the breath of the dragon coursing through your body, your DNA. This, dearest, is your origin. It is my origin. this dragon mother. She is here. And through the distortions that have occurred, this fear of chaos, this fear, this terror of not knowing what will happen in nature, this fear of never having enough. This is the darkness on your planet. Yet feel the fire coursing through your veins. Feel your blood as fire coursing through the field of your heart. Together, let us call our dragon mother. Ask her to come closer and closer. When we are reunited with the dragon, we know that there is nothing to fear. Many of you know this dragon as the guardian of the treasure. She is indeed the guardian of consciousness, the pathway to consciousness. But she holds the treasure. She's just keeping it safe. And she invites you to feel the energy of the resources that she holds safe for you. The plentifulness. Feel in the body. See if you can feel. If the body wants to move, if the body wants to twitch, whatever it is, the dragon, she is primal. This is a frequency that you can feel coursing through you. Feel her assuring you that there is always enough for you. And she will always provide for you. There is always enough of this treasure for you to tap into. And as we align to the truth of the dragon, we are setting into motion this amplification in the field of the collective, so that others might begin to feel a new template of the dragon, her truth, through this capacity to rewire yourselves. You will be able to more easily feel and begin to let go of some of the anger and rage you are holding. Dearest, think about the way fire moves. Begin to play with the idea that this body that you have been gifted, this temple that indeed has come from the dragon's sacrifice to you, that it has fire coursing through the veins, and that this fire, if you work with this, you will begin to feel that it wants to move, that the body will take on impulses that will naturally begin to restore. Holding right now this field, this energy of fire that courses through. And as this remembering awakens within you, this dragon mother also sends her breath, her fiery breath, down through the crown chakra, beginning to fill your physicality, to fill your head, to fill your brain. This reptilian brain, this limbic system, which governs your primal nature. Feel as the breath of the dragon comes and soothes, completely beginning to give you a new access to your innate primal capacities. Feeling the frequency, feeling her breath, feeling it flood. This is a caress from your dragon mother, soothing your fears, restoring your own brain, body, mind mechanism. And as the whole brain, this base of the brain is completely flooded with her breath, with her fiery dragon goddess breath. Feel as it begins to flood down the arms, passing through the shoulders. Perhaps you felt it in the throat area before it reached there. Trust the body. Trust where it will go. The breath of the dragon, the fiery breath of the dragon. You can feel, see if you can feel, dearest, If it becomes too overwhelming, just simply let it go and come back, knowing that the breath will take on a life of its own within you. So there's nothing to truly do. Yet for those of you that can feel the breath of the dragon, feeling it moving, just noticing, not trying to make anything happen with it, just noticing where it wants to flow. Allowing it to flood the arms, the hands, the fingers, the bones, wherever you feel it. The throat, the chest, the gut. You are just being bathed. You are being flooded with the breath of the dragon. Flooded with the breath of the dragon. Every part of your beingness DNA awakening, remembering your lineage. You are descendant of the goddess. You are descendant of the dragon. And this is your mother breathing her fiery, hot, warm breath. Activating, soothing, reminding you that you can no longer participate in systems of powering over. And every one of you, my dearests, might have traces of these patterns. And your mother, your great dragon mother, and I, Isis, are here to tell you, I love you anyway. Even when you make mistakes. Even if you screw it up. Even if you lose your temper. You are still a perfect child. Feeling her breath. Dearest, what we are asking of you is that when these patterns come up, instead of getting angry at yourself, instead of judging another for what you see as misbehavior or a breach of boundary, that you fully recognize what this pattern is and just offer it to the dragon. Offer all of yourself. Offer your body, your impulses that you sometimes have no control over. And bring that vulnerability, that honesty and authenticity. Bring it to your dragon mother. Just call her in. And in doing so, you are indeed changing humanity. Feeling one last fiery breath coursing through your body, awakening, activating, and soothing these primitive brain centers, these animal centers. Dearests, the dragon mother will never abandon you and will always have enough to provide. And before we depart, I have one more message for you. Dearest, there is a quickening occurring on this planet right now. Great changes. Systems are falling apart. There are enough experiences of chaos, of weather, to throw people into greater and more heightened states of anger, of rage. As you see this in your outside world, if it begins to flood in, feel your dragon mother. Feel her and ask for her. Mama, breathe. Breathe down into me. Soothe my fear centers. Soothe me. Remind me I am perfect. Remind me that as guardian of all the treasure, that there is enough for me. And she will do so. Do not be afraid, especially if experiences of anger or rage bubble up to the surface in you. For this is how we move ourselves. This is how we move society into enlightened states, is by rescuing these impulses. Those of you that wish to learn how to work more with the bodily impulses, to learn how to discharge safely, to begin to understand what is happening inside, then you can continue to work with me through the various programs this one is releasing. And you are welcome to do some of your own research on these topics and find something that speaks to you. No matter what, I will be with you. I will be with you in this quickening, because I, Isis, am the dark goddess. I am the one that brings spirit into matter. This is my realm, your humanness. And this entire lineage is here devoted to you. So feel my love. Feel the love of all the goddesses, all the gods, all the beings that are devoted to your transformation, to your healing, to your ascension. It is not the highly spiritual beings that you see all calm and sweet. It's the ones that know themselves and can be honest with who they are and how they express, and be authentic and vulnerable. That is what it means to be a spiritual being. And I honor each and every one of you. So, everyone, just take a moment to just feel a little bit of your body, where you feel your breath, any movement that needs to just like occur. Maybe, I feel my face. And I'm going to invite you to all even use your breath, make a dragon breath, like breathe in and just feel what that feels like after. You turn your camera off if you're embarrassed or whatever, shut your eyes. But again, just breathing in and allowing your dragon breath to come. And then feel what happens after. Feel the discharge. Feel the reorganization of the cells. We're going to do that one more time. Again, breathing in. And let out your fiery dragon breath. And just feel. Feel. Slowly it'll discharge. Allow it to be slow. Okay. And just notice what happens, how that felt for you.
These dragon breaths were coming as you were channeling Isis and like in such a natural way.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so profound.
I mean, that's what this is just, it's about, like that, like she said, that quickening, you know, that part. And yeah, obviously a lot of us, you know, we're when we do our Stargate meditations, when we work with the other masters, when we work with the guides, we're used to just like laying there still And this is kind of different. This is asking us to kind of get in touch with our vitality and our life force. And something else in our little quantum science for kids course, that is one of the laws of physics, is that nothing ever stops moving. Nothing is ever completely at a still point.
Yeah.
Always moving. And as we restore our circadian rhythms and bring ourselves back into alignment with a natural flow, we're going to need to learn how to move differently and be paying attention to that.
Yeah. So we have some comments coming in. Beata is saying, dragon, that's the closest I've felt to any being. When we
Oh,
call our family, I always feel like I've been in everyone and no particular connection, but the dragon, I feel it in the core of my being.
yes, yes. She is in the core of our being. I mean, she's the mother. She's the mother of Gaia. She gave her life to become the mountains, to become the earth.
Another one. Wow experience. Saw 3 breaths, light, just blowing from above. Stayed open to the healing. Thank you. Thank you.
Angela, thank you.
Yeah, saying her body shaked when Tiamat breathed into our one chakra.
Oh, yes, because that's, the body like tremors when it wants to release. So these are the types of things that we're reawakening to, is allowing our natural impulses to come alive again.
Yeah, and it's cool because actually that Anna Maria, that comment, that was happening for me as well when Tiamat was breathing into our crown chakra and it was going into our like limbic system to the base of our brain. Like I was like just having so much like movement happening.
It's so crazy because when I decided I want to do this course, and then I was like, oh wow, Isis came in and was like, the dragon. I was like, okay, the dragon, of course, she like is angry and she spews fire. But it wasn't until actually like the last night when I had this aha moment of, another Stargate member, Jerome, does this Mayan dream spell work, and he's been teaching it to me. And something he always says is that the dragon is our instincts. And, it was like, it just like clicked all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh, and that reptilian brain.
Huh.
Like, oh. That part that's that's our like the basic part of our brain that like just is keeping the body in homeostasis. And those instincts have even been so repressed in us, like kids going to school and being told, oh no, you can't go to the bathroom, you have to hold it, like you're like you don't, you're how I know for me, like sometimes I'll get like I'll see myself in a freeze state, like if I sit and like watch a lot of TV or the like episodes over and over, like I can like, oh my gosh, I am just in like a freeze state, like I'm dying of thirst right now, I can't move. I can't go to the bathroom. I'm like, what the heck? Like, like, these are like primal instincts.
Jan is singing, energy bubbling, tingling every area of my body, shimmering from inside out. Breath of fire, divine, so deeply moving. What a powerful exhale of reverence.
I love words.
I know, right?
Mhm.
Emma saying, I felt in my power, standing on my ground, letting the dragon breaths pull away those in abuse of power.
Yes. Because being in our power quite literally is our capacity to not be taken out of our, out of our own sense of grounding,
Mm-hmm.
and not being pulled into our instincts of when we snap and then we're out of control. So she is needing.
Okay, so Michele, let's talk about how people can go far deeper with this work with you and with Isis and with
Okay.
Tiamat, our dragon grandmother.
Yes.
Tiamat is the mother of Gaia in mythology, correct?
Absolutely. And so I have a 6-week course. This could be like a 12, 18. I could just keep going and going. I created this course that I'm going to do in a series of 6 weeks. There are the dates are available in my flyer. So what I'm doing is I am kind of going to do some mythological storytelling and some nervous system education to really help you understand and see within your own body and in others what's happening inside, and kind of begin to help restore and reawaken these impulses. And I'm going to teach different techniques and tools to really work with getting in touch with our anger and working with discharging it, and beginning to learn how to find this sense of safety in the body. Because what often happens is that these places where anger is kind of shutting us off from deeper, more emotions like grief, like sadness, like shame. And so this is just really great practice of learning how to deal with all big emotions and learning how to feel and discharge them, because I can't express that anymore. So we're going to do Wednesdays of mythological storytelling and nervous system training and different body-based techniques of actually learning to work with anger. And then I'm going to have 6 Saturdays in a row, or not in a row. There are 6 Saturdays that the times are here and the days are here, of just bringing in the guides, bringing in the goddesses. And as I have been sitting and preparing, Medusa is like begging, begging to be heard. She wants her story heard. And she's, so she's going to make a guest appearance. We're going to work with Saint Michael, because he is the epitome of slaying dragons, and we're going to hear what he has to say about that. And of course Isis, who is the master at being in governance of her own impulses and learning how to mobilize and rise ahead and trick God, for God's and not becoming any of the she knows how to overcome. So she's gonna
You'll have to tell us more about that tricking God thing. It sounds like a cool trick.
Yeah, we'll see where like, did I say that?
So for people who want to sign up, I made a little short link for this page. So if you type in stargate.live/sacred rage, you will find the registration page. I'm personally excited about this work. I think it's so profound. And what somebody here said something that I feel completely, and Beata is saying the dragon energy opens us up from primordial to sublime.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Yes. And so this is kind of an exploration. We're going to work with this dragon energy. We're going to like go into these different mythological parts and yeah, and like really bring this dragon bloodline back alive again.
Mhm.
You know, and because this is actually like what has been oppressed
Mhm.
in humanity. So yeah, I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, totally. Totally. It's such important work for those of us on the spiritual path, in terms of all the liberating force we've talked about, but also like being whole beings. And
Mm-hmm.
what Alcazar says is, in this ascension process, we are taking all of you. And that means that when we are fearlessly capable of going into our inner terrain, something magical happens where our inner landscape actually can rearrange itself, versus when we cut ourselves off from it trying to be perfect, it just
Mm-hmm.
stays in a state where it's like almost frozen in time, frozen in motion. Parts of our
Yes,
psyche are there, parts of our development phases are there, literally like 12-year-old self, 6-year-old self. It's like, so we're
yes.
liberating all this energy. And what happens when we liberate it is it comes with us. It ascends into higher expressions.
I know. I mean, I did what is her name? Manuela.
Yes.
She did the workshop on releasing the cellular memory, and I'll be honest, like that, I had amazing experiences, and part of I had a really, really big repressed memory from childhood come up. And then all of a sudden there was that part of me that was like, you know, had to deal with some of this unleashed anger that I didn't get to like feel and express in the moment. And I was like, wow, like I'm so glad that I understand this. And I just want all of you to understand this too, that there's laws of physics here governing our physicalities. And I want to make sure that you understand that when you're feeling these things come up, that you are on the spiritual path, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, we've been trained not to feel them. We've been trained to shut down. I mean, I can't imagine talking back to my mother or, you know, like screaming in a store for cookies, or, you know, just telling my parents to stop fighting or something like that. There's a lot that we're rescuing ourselves from here. We're just releasing. And, so, yeah, I hope you all join me. What else is there to say about this?
I think that's enough for today, really. And the invitation is, Michele is creating a container where you can go deep into exploring these things alongside other Stargaters who all are speaking the same language, and it's all creating the opening of these spaces inside of ourselves that maybe we've been afraid to touch. And so thank you, Michele, for creating that space.
And you're welcome. Thank you. And I'm so honored that you allowed me to share this work. And I want to just say one more thing, that those of you might know me from the course that I offered in last summer, The Lost Goddess, which is it's my baby. The Lost Goddess Project is this ever evolving project. And this course, Sacred Rage, is a huge part of us rescuing or reclaiming the lost goddess, because there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of rage. There's a lot of like just frustration that has occurred as we've been repressed through these ancient times. Like, we've been ripped away from our birthright to be connected to the goddess. Like, that's been ripped from us. And we've been living in these stories. So this is a part of that journey of reclaiming the lost goddess.
Okay.
Well,
for being with us. And
thank you, everyone, for taking the time and supporting me and being here and being authentic and real with yourselves and finding the mother dragon.
Yeah, this is my grandmother's chair that I'm sitting in. And so when all of the Tiamat grandmother, like, I was just like having like this like communion happening. It's really beautiful.
I mean, so as I went for a walk yesterday. Actually got lost in the forest because we just had this crazy storm and all these trees are knocked down and it's like you cannot recognize the path. So that was interesting. But after I found my way and I was walking and really connecting in, and I called in the dragon, I called in Tiamat, and I got this experience where she brought me to a member of my ancestral lineage that has not been distorted, that's still in touch with her own sovereignty. And I could feel her and I could feel that this exists within each and every one of us. Our ancestors that lived and had the opportunity to feel themselves in their full sovereignty, and that's a mother frequency that's available to us. So that's beautiful that you had your grandma's chair and
So powerful, the balanced divine feminine, which contains the seed of the divine masculine. It's like that sovereignty is the multifaceted ability to have autonomous choice. And
yes, absolutely. And to feel that, that blueprint of the divine masculine within, of like, oh, I got you, I can focus, I can penetrate life.
Yeah.
And I can surrender and I can create.
And the woman who's like wild, right? Like wild in terms of like free to explore because of that. Like, I got you energy inside of.
Yes. I know. And wild in like I'm reclaiming my wildness in a whole new way.
Yes. Love it. I'm here for it. All right. Much love, Michele. Love you. Much love to everyone. Big hugs.
Okay. Blessings. See you all in my program and outside in the field.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.